Welcome back to The Quest, where we've come back for an all or nothing final episode at Haverfordwest. Okay, let's dive straight into explaining what's on the line for this afternoon's episode. As you can see on screen, we've suffered some defeats. We're not top of the league. It's unlikely that we will be able to win it. Our unbeaten record has gone. TNS's continues. We've had quite the time with injuries since our last episode, which has put a real crimp in our title charge. Last time we were with you, we were beating Carmarthen 2-0. We played them back-to-back over the festive period, and we beat them 1-0 in the second of those games before making progress in the League Cup against a side from the division below, which set up a League Cup final tie against TNS, where we edged the XG. We had more shots. We had more shots on target. We had the lion's share of possession. We also had some very poor performances from our front players, many of whom you might not be familiar with, as we've tried to bring in some reinforcements because we were crippled by injuries. We missed a penalty in this game, which would have tied it up just before half-time. How different it could have been if we'd have scored that. So we lost in the League Cup final, but before that game, we also suffered our first defeat of the season. And it wasn't even to TNS. We continue to be unbeaten against them in the league. Instead, we lost to Connah's Quay, who have emerged as the third force in Welsh football. We were ahead inside 60 seconds of this game. We lost 2-1 when Connah's Quay only had 3 shots on target during the entire match. And it was a very disappointing game. Edwards picked up an injury in this game, another one of our front players who went on to be out for 5 or 6 weeks. So that was very disappointing. After those 2 little setbacks, we got back to winning ways by beating Colwyn Bay and Airbus before taking on TNS again, this time in the league. Again, we took the lead. TNS only had 2 shots in the entire match. Only one of them was on target. It went in, and we even had a red card in this game, and they still didn't trouble us. But we weren't able to beat them. If we had, we would have really set up a tense title battle. As it was, that draw was followed up by another draw against Connah's Quay. By this time, the league had split, and so all the top teams were playing each other again. And even though we were 2-1 up heading into injury time, thanks to an 88th minute strike of our own, they scored in stoppage time to level it up at 2-2. And I think at that point, I was thinking that the title might have gone. By the time we finished the next match, I was sure of it. We lost 2-0 to Carmarthen, and we were really poor in this game. We didn't create a lot. But from the moment that their players stepped up on the edge of our area to take a free kick, I thought we were in trouble in this game. Never did for 1 second did I think they weren't going to score from that free kick. And we never really laid a glove on them trying to get back into the game. It was a very disappointing performance. But again, we were missing so many of our big guns through injuries. The one ray of light, I would say, is that we took on TNS yet again, this time in the Welsh Cup at the quarter-final stage. And we beat them, the first time that we've beaten TNS other than on penalties during our time in charge. This time they could probably consider themselves slightly unfortunate. They had 16 shots in this game when we drew with them, they only had 2. We had a couple of our players back from injury just recovering, and goals from Callanier and Phillips, who you've not met before and we will show you later. It's quite good, you know. Managed to get us through into the Cup semi-final. Since then, we've beaten Airbus and we've beaten Colwyn Bay, who we will be playing in that Welsh Cup semi-final. But before we get to that game, we've got a season-defining match first of all. We are still 3 games away from the end of the season, and I did toy with the idea of not coming back until the final match of the season. But either in that final game, we would have a chance of winning the title, which means we must have beaten TNS. And you might have been a bit suspicious as to how that result might have been achieved, or the season would have been over, we'd have lost in the Welsh Cup semi-final as well, and I'll be bringing you back for a bit of a nothing episode to end things with. So instead, what we're going to do is this. We're going to take on TNS in the first of today's games. If we were to win it, the title battle would be back on. It would take us to within 1 point of TNS. Now, they would have to then drop points in one of their other subsequent games. A tall task because they're about to go 3 seasons unbeaten, but at least the final day of the season could be exciting. If we lose it, then the title is absolutely done and TNS will win perhaps their 48th Welsh League title in a row. Our 2 final games, by the way, are against Connors Key and Carnarvon, 2 of the teams that have beaten us this season. So even if we were to get a result against TNS, we would still be up against it. Off camera, I'm then going to play the Welsh Cup semi-final. Hopefully, we can make progress in that game against Colwyn Bay. We drew with Colwyn Bay much earlier in the season, but at the halfway point, we beat them 8-0. So I would be hopeful that even if we can't get ourselves back into a title battle in today's episode, we might be able to secure a place in a Welsh Cup final. So how many matches there are in today's episode depends on how we do and if we make a cup final. But before we get out there and take on TNS, let's show you some of the players that we've tried, allegedly, to strengthen our side with. I think we've got a goodie in Killian Phillips, a midfielder who I think is of a similar level to his partner Harry Brook. I think the two of them are pretty much of a muchness, but because Phillips has tackling of 12 and the passing is not quite so high, he is filling the more defensive ball-winning role, allowing Brook to continue as the more marauding, goal-scoring, assist-making central midfielder on support. Other than that, we're not going to start any of our new players today, but when we had injuries to Cannoneer and to Mather and to Edwards and to Golding, as well as to Gamble at one point, we started to bring in a couple of players on loan as well as a permanent signing as well, just to try and bulk out the squad. I think they're pretty good players, but because they came in during the January transfer window, they've not had a lot of time to acclimatise. Thomas Galvez is a Finnish left-back on loan from Manchester City. I think he's possibly better than what we've got, but just not as accustomed or as settled into the squad. Callum Osmond is a loan signing that we've got in from Fulham. Again, I think as good as what we've got. Certainly a better option from the bench than what we had before. Lawrence Owusu, inexplicably, is worth potentially £17 million. He's only 18 years old. His attributes are stunning. His performances are less so. He has got 1 goal to his name, but he's quickly emerged as a bench player rather than a starter, as he rarely impresses when he comes on. The players that we've signed permanently are Ryan Astley as a backup centre-back, and again, he's Welsh, which I really like. I like the idea of adding more Welsh players to the squad. And Osmond on loan is one of those as well. And we've also bought in on loan Monty Conway, again from Fulham, because some of the squad felt there was a lack of depth at goalkeeper. They didn't think that Monty Conway added any extra depth at goalkeeper, which is why players like Monlouis are currently unhappy and leading a little bit of a revolt against me because of that very reason. We bought in one more player, probably. I bought in more than I wanted to during the January window, but we were so short of players because of injuries that I've also bought in Scott Banks, a utility player, can play wide, can play up front at a push or in attacking midfield. Has been pretty good, has scored 3 goals and got an assist in the games that they've played, and they are Welsh as well, and I really like the way that we're adding some quality Welsh players to this Haverfordwest squad. But today, they're going to have to be at their best as we go out and take on TNS in a game that if we lose, the title is handed to them. But if we win, well, it will go to the final 2 games of the season. So as I mentioned in the intro, this is going to be our final episode at Haverfordwest. I've definitely decided that we're going to move on because I don't really know where we would go from here, regardless of today's result. If we were to win it, get ourselves into a title battle, maybe do a League and Cup double, well, then there's nothing left to achieve in Wales and we really should move on. If we are to lose it and fail to win the Cup, well, I really don't know how much better we would be next season in trying to dethrone TNS. They are going to have made so much in prize money from reaching the Conference League group stages that they are going to be comfortably able to outspend us and all the other clubs in Wales during the summer transfer window. They are already stronger than us. I think they would be even stronger next season. Given 3, 4, 5 seasons, I think it would be a great challenge to try and reel them in. But in a journeyman career, I think we need to try and find a fresh challenge. And hopefully we could find that by having pulled off a miracle. Although we've not made a great start to this, as we give away the ball to Sweet, a player who we had a contract agreed with during the summer. He chose TNS, and on that occasion, he sent his shot just whistling past the post. We pick up this next highlight in pretty much the same position, with Monlouis having the ball in our defence. Let's see if we can actually reach the halfway line this time. We can't. We give the ball away again. Crystal Carrington gives the ball to Scott. It's into Matos. It's gone over the bar, but it has been an eerily ominous start for us. If we are going to win this, I feel it's going to be a bit of a smash and grab job, because we've not impressed at all. We might get through the entire half of football here without even having a shot. It's a miracle that we're still at 0-0, although we have just lost the services of our best player once more. Diamond Edwards has picked up a potential foot injury. I think the player that we'll bring on in his place is Callum Osmond. Cannoneer on a 6.5. He's been pretty quiet over the last month or so since returning from his injury. And at the break, it does not look like we're going to have enough to beat TNS today. We've at least had some shots at the start of this half, but we've raced our way through to 62 minutes. We've still not been able to find the breakthrough. I think I might need to make a change up front. So this is a bit of a Hail Mary to try and win the game. I'm taking Cannoneer off and bringing on Owusu. I've taken on Sam Mather, incredibly disappointing, by the way, to bring on Banks. If we're not ahead by 75 minutes, I think I'll need to go attacking. We've dominated this second half. TNS have not had a shot until that free kick, which the Beach manages to tip around the post. Maybe by 70 I should go attacking, because we might need a bit of time to try and find a goal. Maybe even 2 by that stage. Owusu gets the ball on the halfway line, managed to smuggle it to Brook. And we've got an attacking highlight now in their half. Galvez, the left back that came on, manages to smuggle the ball through. Gamble now ends up with it. Osman's going to take on his man, send it into the box. No. Instead, he sends it back to his full back. Now he's got it in the box. He's wriggled free. He's had a shot that George Boateng saves. And maybe now we should up it to attacking. And I think we're also going to put a shout out. We've had a decent second half. Let's encourage them and see if we can get more of the same. 6 shots, 3 on target. As we approach the 80th minute, maybe we even need to look at trying to change our shape to see whether we can do something that might get us the goal that could put an unlikely title battle back on the table. Okay, time is against us now. I've tried to make as many attacking changes as I can. It's not really doing anything, and time is ticking away. We're going to try and push more men up front for the final stages. We'll go with a 3-man front line, as well as Golding backing them up. We're going to ask 2 of them, I think, to be advanced forwards. We're going to ask one of the others to be a deep line forward. I think we'll make that Banks, maybe drifting into some of these wide areas. We're going to ask both of our fullbacks to really try and bomb forward. I've already pushed the lines up as high as they can go. It's Hail Mary time. We need a goal in stoppage time, and it doesn't look like it's going to come. If it is, it's going to be incredibly late in the game as Phillips gets the ball. He's got his back to goal. He's gone back to his own defence, and a draw, I fear, is not going to be enough. So Diamond Edwards is going to be out for 4 weeks. I think that's the last time we're going to see him during this journeyman career. TNS are now 4 points clear with 2 games to play. I don't think we're going to be able to catch them. So I'm going to go and play this cup semi-final offline, and I'm either going to be coming back for a very disappointing end to season 2 with Haverfordwest, or I'm going to be bringing you a cup final. So there's been plenty of personal accolades this season as I'm named Manager of the Month for the 5th time, but it's team prizes that we want, and Well, there's a chance. Okay, not in the league. I'm afraid TNS smashed their opponents in their final 2 games of the season, but we managed to make progress in the cup. We eventually went on to beat Colwyn Bay 5-0 in the semi-final. I feared the worst when we missed an early penalty. I thought it could be one of those games. By the way, Gamble has now missed 2 penalties in 2 successive matches, but we were able to make light work of Colwyn Bay in the end, as we were against Connors Quay and Carnarvon, the 2 teams that had beaten us this season. We ended up playing extremely well against in the final couple of games. We've now gone 5 matches without conceding a goal. We're going to be taking on Newtown in the cup final. TNS eventually won the league by 4 points. It's a 3rd successive season where they've not lost a single game, but we managed to go undefeated against them this season. Drawing against them each time we played them in the league. It was only that League Cup final that we lost to them. We did beat them in the cup as well. Give me 2 to 3 more seasons, I might be able to rein them in. But we do have some more good news. Apart from reaching that cup final, we switched to playing rather than every week to every 2 weeks towards the latter part of the season, which meant that so much time had elapsed by the time that we'd played Connors Quay that our mate Diamond Edwards was fit enough to be back on the bench for that game, and he started the game against Carnarvon, so he is going to be fit for the cup final this afternoon. And for that cup final, we're going to make 2 controversial-ish team decisions. The first is up front, where Oakley Cannoneer has been very hit or miss since he came back from injury. He's got 17 goals this season in 29 appearances, but Owusu has scored in each of the last 2 games and looks like he's in pretty good form. And attribute-wise, I think he has the beating of Cannoneer. So we're going to start Owusu in the cup final this afternoon. And at left back, we're also going to drop Logan Pye, who was very disappointing in his last 2 appearances. And we started giving game time to Thomas Galvez, who's come in and got 3 assists. So we're going to give Galvez a cup final appearance as well. Otherwise, it's our regular lineup. I think it's our strongest lineup. The only other sticking point is with Golding, who we've offered a new deal to. He'd refused to negotiate all the way through the season. He's gone into the final month of his contract. Now he will negotiate, but there are other clubs that are in for him as well, including Championship side Millwall. So it may be that he's playing his football at a much higher level next season. Now let's get out there and take on our cup final opponents, Newtown, in our last game in charge as Haverfordwest boss. So it would be nice to finish our time with some silverware in Wales. We managed to get a promotion at Moyola Park. This would be our only trophy that we've won whilst at Haverfordwest. We've got lucky facing Newtown, I guess. We knocked TNS out earlier in the competition, and Connors Quay Nomads went out early as well. So this is a game where we will be favourites, and we have taken the lead inside 30 seconds as Brooke just moves up to the edge of the area and fires a low effort past the Newtown keeper. I guess you would refer to that as the dream start to a cup final, fed by Mather. The closing down wasn't great, neither was the goalkeeping, but we will not overlook a little bit of charity from the Newtown defence. As ever with us, though, the second goal is key. I'd like it to arrive as soon as possible. We've got over 80% of possession, now down to 76% of possession during the first 15 minutes of the game, and we're into the highlights once more. McGonigal, though, feeds it to Sodi, and it's not a highlight for us as the ball goes into the box. The Beach comes out and claims it on his own 6-yard box, and he's going to bowl it out to one of his defenders, his chosen Monlouis, who sends the ball down the wing. Edwards feeds Golding, and the player who could be in the Championship next season with Millwall sends a swinging cross in that Mather gets on the end of and receives a little pass from Phillips. And after a bit of bouncing around in the area, the Salford Messi remembers that he is a player of some talent after all and gets Haverfordwest their second goal of the game. Mather jinks into the box, feeds Phillips, Gets the ball back before shooting once, twice, 3 times. He scores. We're 2-0 up very early on, and we have looked good during this final 4 or 5 games of the season. If we could just have beaten TNS once in the league, not only to end their 3-year run without losing, but just to drag ourselves 2 points closer to them, it would have been a really exciting end to the season, I think. To have got within 4 points of them is a much better achievement than we were able to manage last year. And remember, we only finished 3rd in the end. We certainly cemented ourselves as Wales' 2nd most powerful club this season. Were we to stay, I think it would be tough to beat TNS next season, but given a couple more years, I think we could have done it. But we have got to go off in search of new adventures. Thank you for all your comments at the end of the last video, by the way, about where we might end up. Some people saying Bulgaria would be good. Others were saying that Denmark would be a suitable challenge to try and find a club that we could take to a European final. Switzerland got lots of votes as well, as did Croatia. Some people, by the way, were saying that they thought maybe Denmark or Croatia or Switzerland might be too easy a destination to find a club that we could take to a European final. I'm not sure about that, but I guess a lot of it will depend on where jobs become available during the off-season, and that's what we'll be bringing you in our next episode. I decided to play Owusu. He's in no way rewarded me for that faith, and even Diamond Edwards has not had a great game. We're going to bring on Osmond, and the third player who we gave a nod to was Galvez. He's not performed well either, so Pi gets on in the cup final, and we'd like to try and find a third goal just to wrap this tie up. Newtown have only had 2 shots in the entire game. Only one of them's been on target. They've had just 33% of the ball, but a goal in the final 15 minutes would make it a nervy end. So let's see whether we can get a third. We're going to have to win possession of the ball to do so. Paul Daniels is a magic striker, but not on that occasion. Phillips feeds Mather to Brook, to Golding, to Donny Osmond. Yet another effort for us that's gone wide of the target this afternoon. And I think on 80 minutes, we might need to freshen things up once more. And after a lightning start to this game, maybe we'll have to content ourselves with just the 2 goals and not hanging on, but certainly not being as convincing as we were in our final few league games of the season. Brook has a final effort that he fires well over the bar. He's struggling for some fitness now, by the way, looking like he is certainly ready for his summer holidays. There we go. The final whistle is blown. We are going to see one of our teams climb the podium and lift not so much a trophy, more of a goblet, this one. But we'll accept the grateful handshakes from the dignitaries who always seem to wear red glasses in FM24 at trophy presentations. It looks like it's going to be Monlouis, our skipper, who's going to hoist the trophy aloft. We're going to see confetti fall for the first time in the quest. But now our challenge is to go away and find a new club in a new country where, who knows, we might be able to take a club to a European final.